Hi, this is Braschek, and we're recording this on April 11th, 2021. And I just wanted to draw attention to some of the significant deaths, people that were major, major critics, either of Tony Fauci or Tony Fauci and the CoVid con. And the first one occurred in 2019 in the summer. Kary Mullis. We've got, if you search his name on our website, K-A-R-Y, you'll see we have a lot of videos from him. He was a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry. He was the actual inventor of the PCR test. That is the test that Fauci and friends used to prove the epidemic. Basically testing non-symptomatic, non-sick people and declaring them COVID cases. Mullis was an outspoken opponent of Tony Fauci pre-COVID. Of course, Kary died before the COVID thing started. The summer of 2019. But he was on the record of calling Fauci a fraud. He was on the record of went on the record saying that the use of PCR test as a medical diagnostic is a fraud on its face. He was crystal clear. And again, this was a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry and the man who actually invented the test that they are using to create hysteria and fear where it's not warranted. So he died at the age of 70. I can't read my handwriting, but let me calculate that again. Could use an assistant, boy, I'll tell you. 75. It'd be great to have a producer, all these people that have, not everybody that has a podcast, but you'd be shocked at how many people who have podcasts have a producer or two that handle all the details. But anyway, 75. I did see a video of him giving a talk. He was mentally there. He was a little physically challenged. He didn't look like he was a robust person, but he was all there mentally. He had quite a bit of mental energy. But he did die, ironically enough, of pneumonia in a hospital. Next death, this one happened in the summer of 2020 in the midst of the COVID hysteria. David Crow, a researcher in Canada, again, right up there with Kary Mullis as being absolutely outspoken as to the lifetime serial con artistry and fraud of Tony Fauci. And he had been reporting on Fauci for years and years and years. This is not, that Fauci is a fraud and a con artist and an incompetent and a fantastic liar. This is not new information. I mean, there have been people like Kary Mullis, like David Crow. David got a cancer diagnosis, and I think within 6 weeks, he was dead. So he went from doing his weekly show to being gone. And he died at age 64. The next person of note, and the third person we're going to pay attention to, is John Magufuli. I think I'm saying that right. I don't really know. He was president of Tanzania. He just died a month ago. He was the only head of state on the planet Earth who stood up to the COVID fraud. He took samples from, I think, a goat, a mango, and some other thing, and sent them to his state lab to see how reliable they were, and they all came back with COVID. So, interestingly enough, a mango fruit can have a roaring case of COVID, and he announced this publicly. Of course, that was ignored. And based on that experience, he rightfully said there's something really wrong here. We are not going to get caught up in the hysteria. Anyway, he disappeared about 2 months ago and was reported dead in the hospital. again uh, at the age of 61. Now, I've seen videos of the man. I mean, anybody can die at any time, but he sure didn't seem to be in anything resembling poor health at all. And 61 is pretty young. Um, he also did some other things that were, as the news media would say, controversial. One of the things that China has been doing is going to African countries. And by the way, they got what I'm about to describe. They got from the U.S. British book. They would go to African countries or poor countries and propose, sort of crazy and crazily expensive and overpriced infrastructure projects, and say, hey, look, we'll build this for you. Easy payments, and it will transform your economy, and everything will be great. So when Magufuli came to power in Tanzania, there were a bunch of these scam-ridden agreements in place with China. And I don't blame China. They're just playing the imperial game, which is, if you don't know, you should read the book or Google. And we've got it somewhere on the site, but again, we've got thousands of videos, so it's hard to keep track of them all. This is where I would have my trusty producer do a research and find it. Well, we might find it, put it down there. But anyway, there's a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And there are people in nice suits with nice educations whose whole profession is to go around the world and talk poor countries into really, really, really bad deals. And then what happens is we benefit. First, we get the profit from the development. Then we are able to extract their resources with greater ease. But the third thing is we're then able, when they can't pay back the loans, we're able to foreclose, on their assets. So it's a fantastic system. And I think his name's John Perkins, was a participant in it. Thought better of it as he got older, wiser, and more ethical, and wrote a whole book about how it works. And he pointed out that there is a second option, and this is the same options that narco-terrorists use in Mexico. It's called plato y plata. Plato o plat. I don't know. I got to brush up on my Spanish, but it's a play on words. The word lead and the word silver sound a little bit alike in Spanish. So basically the deal you get from a narco-terrorist, if you're a government official, is we'll give you silver or we'll give you lead. In other words, we'll make you rich if you just play ball with us, and if you don't, we'll kill you. How's that? And that's basically the deal the U.S., the U.K., and other countries have imposed on these poor countries on their leaders. And Magufuli was obviously a guy that said, no, I'm not taking the silver. I'm not letting my country be burdened with these insane loans and development projects that don't really serve us. And he also said no to COVID, the COVID con. And again, 61 years old, he died last month. So I'm not saying that they're killing these people. It's just bad luck. It's just really bad luck, because these were literally the most prominent opponents of the COVID con. Had Kerry lived, he certainly would have been outspoken on it. So we have a Nobel Prize winner dead. We have probably the best reporter and analyst of public health frauds who ever lived. That's David Crowe, and we've got material, that's CROWE, on our website. We may do some special programming on David's work because it's unbelievable. I mean, he laid the whole thing out before it happened, and he was also the first out of the gate to explain how the thing was a fraud from pretty much from day one. Because it's an instant replay. Any longtime Brass Check viewers, or even if you've just been viewing the last year, know that every single thing they're doing is a rehash and a replay of a scam that they've run previously. They've just never run it on such a scale, and they've never run it so successfully. And David's been revealing every one of these things, from the Zika virus to bird flu, You name it, he dismantled it. Anyway, he's no longer with us, dead at 64. Uh, I was actually in communication with him. We were going to have we were going to have an interview. It was scheduled for a Tuesday. And he told me Monday he couldn't do it, and then he revealed later to me that he had this diagnosis, and 6 weeks later he was dead. And then John Magufuli, age 61, um, head of state of the country of Tanzania. By the way, a very progressive country on the up. They're doing well. Um, they're really improving the standard of living for their people. They're doing great. He resisted the bogus loans, and he resisted the COVID con, and by coincidence, he happened to die in a hospital last month. So don't want to be don't want to be a downer, but I think this is the only place you're going to get this information, and you're entitled to it, and it's good to know. Why aren't we hearing articulate, informed voices? Well, by bad luck or coincidence or otherwise, the most high-profile, informed, and articulate people in the COVID con just happened to be dead. So that's brass check.